What up, battle buddies? Welcome to the Combat Carl Show. Real vets, real talk, slightly inappropriate. I'm your host, Combat Carl, Army vet, and your favorite supply guy. On the show, we're gonna cover it all, from your first pair of boots to your final salute. No filters, no fluff, just vet stuff.
Realistically, like Saddam Hussein, I always crack people up, and I was like, if you want to look at something crazy, check who actually was awarded the keys to Detroit now before Barry Sanders. It was Saddam
Mm.
Hussein. I mean, think about that for a second. I mean, he was an ally, and we were invested in making sure that his regime stayed in power because realistically, it was everything about keeping Iran at bay, and he did that for us.
Show, let's go. Show, let's go.
What's up, y'all? It's Combat Carl Show. I'm your host, Combat Carl. Today I have a special edition to the Combat Carl Show. I have one of my good friends, one of my first NCOs, Sergeant First Class Lashawn Frazier. I said it right. What's going on, my man? How you doing today?
Wonderful. And yourself?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm super excited about this episode because you are the first NCO I had in supply, period. And I couldn't tell my story. My greatness can't be told without you. So before I, what I'm saying, just tell everybody's story, I want to tell yours. Also, I definitely want to highlight your story. So with that said, I remember the first time I met you. Do you remember the first time you met me?
I want to say, yeah. I'll be honest with you, it's many moons ago.
So many months ago. I remember my first deployment getting as soon as I got in the military, 07, Baghdad, and I'm gonna tell you a story real quick. I used to know you used to pit me and Bernie against each other in the sense of like you used to talk so much shit to me. Be like, you ain't done yet? Bernie would have been had this done. Hunter would have been had that done. And I used to be like, man, fuck, man, these motherfuckers getting shit done. I'm slow as hell. I must be slow or something. I was like, question, I'm slow or something. And no bullshit, right? It be times where I'd be like, yeah, I'm done. And then like, we'll leave for the night. I would come back to the office, like after dinner chow, and be in there like banging out paperwork, like studying the fucking paper, like studying the systems and shit. Like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. And Captain Carter would be like, you still here? You still here? Yeah. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But I tell it to say, man, you was a great NCO, man, and yeah. So I definitely want to tell your story, brother.
Yeah, no, the competitive juices. What I
Uh,
miss most about the military, we're just built competitors. At the end of the
yeah,
day,
man.
we want to compete, we want to get ahead. We're definitely trying to get through. So no, it was fun
Yeah,
pitting
man.
you
It
guys
was fun.
against each other.
Me and Bernie be like in the room, like mad at each other, right? 'Cause we share the chew. Like, man, I ain't fuck with you right now, man. You ain't do that. He's like, I ain't do that. What? You ain't do that. So
Yeah, I was a different kind of guy back then. There was no
yeah,
holds
man.
barred. So it was like,
Yeah,
hey,
man.
no mercy. We're gonna get this done. Got too much to do. We're gonna
Yeah,
push it. We don't care about feelings. We're gonna get it done. Let's go.
yeah,
So yeah,
man.
it was a different dude back then. That was like so many different changes because as you go through life, you just kind of change. But that guy was the old me was an issue. It was like, nah, this is what we're gonna get done. I don't care about your feelings. I don't care how late you gotta work. You're gonna get
Yo,
it done.
I respected it though, man. I did respect it because I was like, man, I must be slow or something. It got me thinking. I'm like, man, I got to get it up. Now, fun fact, I had talked to Sergeant Tenario, right? And I asked him a question. I said, Sergeant Tenario, who is the best supply guy you ever had, supply sergeant you ever had, right? So I'm like, I'm big. I had him for 2 deployments. I had him for '07 and I had him for the 10 deployment, right? And he was like, Sergeant Frazier. And I said, what? Sergeant Frazier over me? Right? And so he went to tell me some super dope stories about you that I didn't know that you, I guess let's say the '05 deployment or deployment before that one. And
Uh,
you know what I'm saying? You were there. And I guess the deployment before that, you was there also. So he just told me different stories you brought. He said you brought cable 2 to 5. I guess
yeah.
AFN 2 to 5. I said, what? I ain't never do that. You got me there. I
Yeah,
ain't never
no,
do
it was
that.
it was internet. Yeah, we oversaw the process, making sure the unit had internet. Yeah, it was a different time though. It was so much craziness because they had just did OIF one, and I
Mm-hmm.
was in Korea when they did OIF one. I got there, they had just got back from OIF one, and then we went right into training for OIF three.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, everything was just fast. But for me, everything was about anticipating what the unit needed and just trying to fill. Because once you figure out what they need, and by the time they realize they need it, it's almost too late. So
Mm-hmm.
it was important to just be ahead of
You
everything.
did used to say that. You did used to say that. If they tell you they need it, it's too late. You
Man, come on.
did-
I don't want to talk about it. At this point, yeah, red money, blue money, green money,
Yeah.
deployment money. Yeah, you got to be ahead.
Um. So I was, and he told me you like pretty much like spearheaded DRMO for the brigade at the time because they ain't had shit. They ain't had systems in place doing these like those deployments. Like certain systems weren't in place and shit.
I'll be honest. There was different, so many different tasks and responsibilities that went with. I mean, the first deployment was wild because there was just so much I had to learn. By the time I had volunteered to join the FSC and we linked together for the second deployment, the OIF 5, that was a large responsibility. And I remember watching so many different supply sergeants, or a matter of fact, they started the unit without a supply sergeant. So that's what really made
Mm.
everything interesting for the FSC. But the tanks and Bradleys was easy because
Mm.
they were a small unit, that first deployment. But again, it just boiled down to me knowing ahead of time that I always want to have what I need before I know I need it.
Hell yeah. All right. So I got a segment we start here, man. It's called 40 Mike Mike. I'm gonna ask you a couple questions. We get this thing started. So where are you from?
Originally from Brooklyn, New York, a little neighborhood called Bed-Stuy.
Heard of it one time or two.
Yeah, I grew up there. It was interesting growing up there. The world has changed so much. All my teachers, they either taught my parents or they went to school with my parents. Everybody knew each other. It's pretty nice.
What did you want to be growing up? Did you want to be in the military always, or what did you want to do?
I wanted to be actual finance. I wanted to actually work in finance. When I went to college, I had looked at finance. I was business administration, and the math just wasn't mathing. Ended up working that for a while. Really wasn't a good student,
Mm-hmm.
and ended up meeting my wife, and we had my daughter, and I was trying to do both work and go to school, and I just didn't. It just didn't. It really just didn't click. And I remember I had a third grade teacher, and I never forget it. She said, based on some essay I wrote, how, how I value and see the world would be great for the military. And I've always was curious because at the end of the day, it's just something about the challenge,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't find a bigger challenge than joining the military. So between already having scholarships that I already had when I was in college, and
Mm-hmm.
then joining the military, getting even more money for college, and then saying, hey, if I like it and love it, I'm gonna rock with it and do my 20, and then be prepared for when the actual beard gets gray, and actually, be able to live a little bit more comfortable, see the world. Because when I joined in the '90s, there were no wars.
Mm-hmm.
It was, you joined for college money, or you joined for a career, or you pretty much joined to see which direction you're gonna go.
Okay. All right. So can you tell the good people what was your MOS?
92 Yankee Supply. Now it's funny how I ended up 92 Yankee Supply. It really wasn't my target.
Mm-hmm.
When I had joined, I took the ASVAB. I scored something like a 75 or 80, something that gave me so many different options. I couldn't really necessarily navigate because they gave me this huge book with all these different job descriptions, and I was already halfway through college with business administration degree, so I wanted everything that basically gave me business.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, it was okay. Everything is going to allow me to work at my own pace and basically, not necessarily be able to be stuck underneath, someone and just, run into a situation where it's like, hate my job. I hate, I like small teams. So
Mm-hmm.
from there, I was like, okay, what's the bonus? What jobs are bonus? And 92 Yankee, I think 92 Fox, there were a few of them, but 92 Yankee had like a $4,000 bonus. And at that point, that was a big deal. When they described it, it just fit my personality to a T. Small team, get to work independently, and from there it was just an easy selection.
Okay. All right. And how long did you wind up serving?
20 years, 1 month, and 1 day. I knew exactly what I wanted. I always know what I wanted. that 20 year it's so funny. I love telling the story. It's kind of crazy now that I think about it. Met my last unit. I got there and they put me in PBO.
Okay.
And when I got there, I was like, okay, cool. I knew I'm in here. I was going to do 3 years. I was going to get the 400. I was going to do my 3 years. I was going to, and they wanted me to take over an actual battalion and leave the property book and go down to the line, of the battalion. And when I got there, I met the battalion sergeant major at that time. She was going to switch over to brigade and take over. I said, yo, sergeant major, I got 2 years. I'm retiring. I don't mind taking on this responsibility, but I'm just letting you know I'm retiring. And she said to me, she said, no one said that out loud, one. And
Mm-hmm.
two, if you get, the opportunity to get promoted, I've looked at your career and your evaluations, you're going to take the promotion. I said, okay, Sergeant Major, we'll see. So long story short, I did everything I said I was going to do. I got to that point, and when it was time to either get looked at for a promotion and looked at for retirement, I put the packet in. And I remember coming back because I was at NTC, and I just knew after doing NTC it was a wrap. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to do any more NTCs. Got through, had a really good outcome, but it was a really sorry experience because after a while, you just and I
Yeah.
remember coming back and she's chewing my ear and I'm looking down at her and she you didn't put your packet in to be reviewed. You're the only one in the entire brigade. And I just handed her my retirement paperwork. I already had everything done. And she was like, okay, you kept your word. I can't be mad at you. And from there, I started my retirement process, or I should say
Mm.
transition, because I don't even think I didn't even finish my terminal leave before I already had a job opportunity.
Okay. Mm. That's what's up. All right. So you went in. So what year you went in?
I went in 97.
Okay. So what was like boot camp like back then for like y'all in
Boot camp
'97?
was a beast. I don't know what it's like now, but I know we didn't have any cell phones. You would have to do push-ups for every package or letter you received. God forbid
Mm.
if they sent you cookies. That was
Mm.
torture city. I think the most traumatizing was the first day when we got with the drill sergeants, and just the mere notion of saying yes drill sergeant, no drill sergeant. Folks couldn't do it. So for every guy that couldn't do it, a girl, we were doing push-ups because they kept saying, "No, ma'am, no,
Yeah.
sir," and it was just like, "Yo, you're gonna get down. We're gonna continue to push." But it was a great journey because I mean, you can't find a bigger test of your internal fortitude than boot camp itself.
Yeah. I dig that. I dig that. And what was your worst day of boot camp like though?
So actually, I don't. When I think about it, I think it had to be the first day. But I mean, just in general, I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the only time I ever thought about going AWOL just for sleep. I mean, you would close your eyes. Imagine closing your eyes, and no quicker than you close your eyes, it was like you blinked, and it's like you get up and you get start all over again.
Yeah.
You marching, you rucking, you doing PT. I mean, it was a serious challenge, and I mean, I wasn't a couch potato in college. I go play basketball every Saturday or whatever, but nothing prepared you for the physical tasks of the military the first month or so.
Yeah. I dig that. That shock. That shock is real. And
For
where
real.
all were you stationed at in your career?
First station, I got lucky. They sent me to Germany. From there, I managed to weasel my way to Fort Eustis. I want to say 13 months in Fort Eustis. They had me already on orders to Korea. I did that year in Korea when OF1 kicked off. And then after I left Korea, I ended up going to Georgia. Then after I was at Georgia and I was with you guys for the second deployment, Branch stepped in and was like, okay, where you want to go? Of course, I went back to Germany. You can't think of a better opportunity for family and career. And
Mm-hmm.
while I was in Germany, from there, basically, we spent 6 years at Georgia. So once I got to Germany, I knew I was going to be there. Got there 2009. 2013, I was already 3 years out, or 4 years out. So after that point, I did my 4 years in Germany, went to Afghanistan for deployment, came back, and they sent me to Texas. Didn't want to come to Texas, wanted to come back to Georgia, but Major, they just were not hearing it. It's like you got to come to Texas. And then when I was researching retirement, there's no state that's more beneficial to retirees than Texas.
I get that.
Just couldn't find one,
Okay.
so
And
it worked out.
okay. Who is someone you looked up to in your military career?
It's been a whole bunch. I could think about my first supervisor. I mean, when you talk about a hard, a hard dude to get along with, but I mean, he cared about work. I never forgot when I first arrived, I had two African American a staff sergeant and sergeant come to me and say, because the moment they knew that's where I was going was to his shop, they were like, we thought everyone thought this dude was a racist or whatever, and he was like, okay, I'll let you know. And he was just one of those guys. I think the first problem we had was he wasn't really into letting me, or he gave me the indication that he wouldn't let me pick my wife up from the actual airport, because when you first get to Germany you can't bring any family. You have to wait a month or two, and you haven't seen your family in a couple of months. And he's saying, well, I don't know what we're gonna have going on that day. So they had asked me, you going to pick up your spouse? I was like, the way he talking, I don't know. I mean, she may have to get on the bus. So they went to see first sergeant, and first sergeant called me over, talked, and first sergeant came to see him. And to his credit, it was no, he wasn't angry or anything with me. And needless to say, I went and picked up my spouse, because at that time I really felt like that chain of command and the chain of commands above them it was about family first.
Hmm.
Mission was always a priority, but unless you go on the war, it's what are we talking about? And there was no wars at that point. So picked up my family, but the reason I tell the story about him was we didn't really get along, but he
Hmm.
respect my work ethic. There was no day that I showed up and gave less than 110%. And like I said, I'm always trying to be prepared for the unexpected. And I'll never forget, he would have once a month where we would do the counseling sessions, and we would have a basic situation where you take the rink off and just, two men talking and just having honest conversation. And he had brought up, he was like, I was never mad with you over that. And I was like, yeah, I was like, everyone, thought you were one kind of way. But he was like, I just said a lot of people think a lot of things, but realistically, if you realize something about me is, I was like, I finished the sentence. I was like, yeah, you don't like people who aren't about work. Because
Hmm.
realistically, I mean, I'm not an easy person to get along with, as you well know at times, but he really he was about putting that work in. So we got along just fine.
All right, all right. Now my next question is: did you ever serve under any toxic leadership? You ain't got to say no names. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I served under some leadership that it was, I want to say I was blessed.
Hmm.
I got all of the right leadership at the right time. And basically, what I've always done was I pretty much always want to understand how things work. So if I had somebody who was a horrible leader, realistically, I figured out why they were a horrible leader and just made the adjustment if necessary. But I don't think I had any really horrible. I think the craziest leadership I had was when I was in Germany for the second time. I had an actual colonel. This colonel was crazy, man. He was the reason that most of us probably have disability claims on our. Yeah, I mean, he had this. We would do 12-mile ruck marches. I mean, we're a support battalion. He had us doing everything that they did at Fort Campbell. We were literally, it would be frozen over in Germany. We're up in the mountains and Graf, and literally we'll be doing 12-mile ruck marches. He had all of these weird contests that he basically had. We had this one, and I've never seen it again, only when I served underneath him, where we basically had this ball, and this ball was as large as an actual person. And I
Hmm.
mean, literally, it would take the way the game played was we had one platoon against the other, where the goal was to push this giant ball back and forth across the line, almost like rugby.
Hmm.
So basically, we would pretty much run, and you had more than a few people who got injured. But he was a really he was an interesting dude. Then he would have us. I mean, we would do runs, 6, 7, 8 mile runs. He was a really challenging guy, but highly intelligent, just different.
And all right, here we go. Curveball, my man. What is your top five military movies?
Right off the bat, The Rock is number one.
All right.
To The Rock, you got to go 300, Black Hawk Down. Then from there, you can go Braveheart, Gladiator. Those are my top five.
Okay. Okay. And why you love The Rock though? Why is Rock the number one?
I watched The Rock like at least 2 or 3 times while I was waiting to take the ASVAB. I love The Rock. It was that movie. I mean, you
Okay.
got everything there. You got the nuclear super freak, as he liked to put himself. It was just one of those movies where it just all clicked. And it was just to me, it was one of those movies that it embodied what you want to be.
Okay. Okay. And what was your do you remember your what was your when was your first deployment? How about that? Yeah, when was your first deployment?
First deployment was, I want to say 2000. Wow, it was 2003 to 2004. Well, no, it's 2004 to 2005. I had just got back from Korea in 2002,
Hmm.
and we had did everything we needed to 2003. So we took off around 2003, then come back to 2004.
And what was that like for you, man? Like, let's say y'all didn't have a lot. Nothing was really armored back then.
Yeah, we actually had makeshift armor. I'll never forget it. It was it was insane because literally they had sheets of metal that they cut up for us. We
Hmm.
took all the windows out of our Humvees. We had landed in Kuwait. We drove our vehicles from Kuwait into Iraq. It was like
Hmm.
an overnight trip. I'll never forget. I think I was starting Grant, Centenario, and there was a few other sergeants that I was with that was on that first deployment, and then we ended up transferring over to the FSC.
Hmm.
So we all got promoted. But now the first deployment, it was different. It was one of those situations where you did what was necessary, but there was a lot of life lessons. Just put it that it wasn't easy. Could have been a lot harder. We had a lot of guys who didn't come home, so it's kind of hard to complain about it after the fact when you're home and you got to go on and enjoy everything.
Hmm. So what was like? What was your living situation over there? Were y'all in tents, shoes? What was y'all like living when y'all first got there?
No, we was on Camp Rustamaya. We had little like chews. And I'll never forget it. Matter of fact, I still keep in touch with my roommate. They took me and the camo guy and they basically took both our workplaces and
Hmm.
we just lived in our workplaces. So he had half of the chew and I had the other half. And it wasn't even a chew. It was like a makeshift little building
Hmm.
that they had put together. So we had the supply room in there and we had all the combo equipment. So this way, when units went out and actually before they would go out into sector, they would stop by. They would, get their supply re-up and get their combos checked before going out.
Hit that subscribe button if you can roll with your battle buddies in the Combat Crawl Show. No filters, no fluff, just best stuff. And if you don't, I'm gonna tell everybody you the real Blue Falcon. All right. Do you ever miss being deployed at times?
No, I'm gonna straight up say I do not miss deployments. I guess the only thing about deployments is the actual successful completion that you can miss. I mean, but you can get that with most military missions. But you just miss so much time with your family. I mean, so much time. You miss family get-togethers. You miss your kids growing up. You normally lose one or two folks that's in your circle as far as that's in your unit. So I do not miss deployments.
That
Not complaining. They're a necessary evil, but that's what we signed up for. But I do not miss them.
Let me ask you another. What is your so on your first deployment, second, third? You had like how many deployments you got in total?
Three. The
Okay.
first one was Iraq. I did OF3. Then I did OF5. We did together, and then from there I came over after OF5. Came over to Germany, and then we got to do Afghanistan, which was a totally different experience, especially as a SAR first class.
Yeah.
Totally different. Like it was like apples and oranges.
All right. So I say that to say, what was your playlist like though? What was your top three songs on your playlist when you was like on your way there? Pick a deployment. What was your top three songs?
I'm sure whatever it was R. Kelly. I mean, at that time, R&B, especially during that first deployment, R&B, Boys and Men. Phil introduced me into was it Maroon 5? He
Yeah.
would play them every Sunday, every single Sunday. My roommate on my first deployment would play Maroon 5 to the point where he had me singing and listening to it. I still sing and listen to it. The Afghanistan deployment was a little bit different because we started basically exchanging music where
Mhm.
we pretty much had genres that we didn't follow. Like I started listening to Creed, a few of the other
Mhm.
different musics. And basically from there, we would kind of, we would, as shops would sit around and we would, kind of just pass music back and forth between us. So there's Creed. There's a few different, what they call it, the group that sings Kryptonite. So yeah, there's a few.
Okay. Let me ask you this question then. What is your most memorable mission? Yeah. What's your most memorable mission?
Hmm. I want to say, I don't know. I have one of those. Most recent, I think the last NTC was one of the most interesting missions for sure. I got there. It's our first class. We literally had 16 different units. Only one unit actually was the unit I showed up with, and we were the headquarters unit. We had all these National Guards, reservists, other elements that were active fall underneath us and do NTC.
Mhm.
And from there, basically, we had to take on all the equipment, just your normal. I got gear, I have equipment. Had something like 150 trucks that we had to support, 16 units. I had to sign for reefer vans. And the craziest part is when we got there, I only had two soldiers. I had one
Mm,
soldier that just joined the army, and then I had another soldier who worked for me, and she wasn't even a 92 Yankee.
mm,
She was a actual, I'm trying to remember. I think she was a water separator.
mhm.
Either which way, she had been with me for like a year, so she was already a little fluid with actual supply. But the reason the mission stepped out was it was just stands out. It was just such a large responsibility. We managed to get through it. The craziest thing I think I had was it was a crazy situation after craziest, but I think the reefer vans, we had to actually sign for the reefer trucks to go up and into the box.
Okay.
And I'll never forget, I remember watching the unit turn them in, and the next day we were expected to sign for him, and I'm like, okay, I'm not sure if I want to just, sign for these reefer vans without, going through and making sure they pass the muster. So I got with my maintenance sergeant. It was like, hey, I need a team. So I showed up, and the contract. It was funny as I don't know all outdoors. I show up, and he's like, I just need you to sign for the trucks. I'm like, well, I'm not signing for anything.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Hey, boys, let's get at it." And I sat there. I mean, I could send you the pictures. I still have the pictures. It was unbelievable. We had tires that had long separated. I mean, tires that were bald. It was
Yeah.
just, it was a long list. And I looked at him and I said, "Look, nobody's getting killed on my watch, so I'm not signing today." And I knew based on the contracting class that we had, he had 24 to 48 hours to fix whatever deficiencies. But the only thing that I was a little worried about, because sometimes chain of command is like, you haven't gotten it done yet, get it done. We want it done,
Yeah.
get it done. But I was like, all right, I'm gonna just take that, I'm gonna take that the chewing if it's gonna be a chewing, but we're gonna get it right. And I kid you not, the civilian who owned the actual reefer vans that night, he showed up with his crew and bought new tires and everything within 24 to 48 hours. Everything was updated. He was working in the dark.
Mm,
And I was a little worried because my OIC, he was like, "You didn't sign for him?" And I was like, "No, I'm not signing for him until X, Y, and Z get done." He's like, "Okay." And Colonel asked about it. Are you gonna get it done? And I was like, I'm sure, he'll make things, workable for me to sign from. But if not, we'll have to discuss it further. And that 48 hours, everyone's like, "Yo, this guy's replaced all the tires.
mm.
He's done X, Y, and Z." And it was pretty awesome. I think another fun moment I had was the Afghanistan one. I had a colonel. She ended up becoming a general. She was she was she was extremely intelligent, but it was just one of those situations where we had, I don't know if you ever got to design a coin or purchase coins for the unit.
They ain't let me do that. Oh, they ain't let me do that. Damn.
Man, you talk about a
I got
process.
coins, but I ain't do it.
Yeah, no, and it's crazy because that experience of actual the coins helped me now in the manufacturing world
Okay.
with my current job. So it kind of all worked out. But long story short, you're the S4, you got all these huge responsibilities. I get a new colonel, a new sergeant major, of course, a new XO. And we had a coin, and I'm thinking, we just gonna buy the coin that existed. Like, oh no, we want to design an entirely new coin. I'm like, all right, you want to
Mm,
design an entire, I mean, what's this process going to look like? So I pretty much had to find the actual suppliers that we were authorized because a certain amount of, there's only a certain amount of suppliers that you can buy coins from that's authorized. So from there, we basically went with the supplier that was authorized, and these guys started designing the coin. But where I
mm,
messed up was whenever I would take the designer to talk to either the colonel or the XO or something, we would go into their office. We never had like a joint meeting where I could bring them all together and we can decide on the design. So
mm,
I would see the sergeant major, and we had 6 or 7 airborne folks. So he wanted the airborne portion into the coin. I would go see the colonel. She would say, "Why do we have airborne? We got 6 or 7. Take it out." Then the
mm,
XO would have, so it turned into literally a long process, much longer than anyone anticipated. So we get to Afghanistan, have all these other things going on. And my colonel was like, "Yo, where's the coins? It never takes this long to get any coins." So I'm sitting in the meeting. I'm like, I mean, it's been 6 months from the the final approval, and that's what we initially. She's like, the final approval happened way before we deployed. So she was like, "Yo, this is what I need you to do. I need you to turn over all your paperwork and everything to Sergeant Major, and Sergeant Major needs to work with these folks because clearly it's never taken this long to get coins." So I just basically took an itemized list of all the different changes and showed the setbacks. Every time we changed, we had a setback. And she looked at the list and Sergeant Major. I put it at the very top. I was a little bit more than annoyed because I'm like, you guys kept changing the damn coin. So I take the packet, turn in everything at the very top. I put in the timeline. And to her credit and his credit, they looked at the they looked at the timeline and it was like, man, we made this many changes to the coin. I was like, yeah, you made this many changes. So she was like, and apologize without apologize. She said, when the batch gets here, just continue working the way you're working. I'll make sure you get the very first coin. And when the coins arrived, of course, she made sure I got the very first coin. It was a very interesting coin.
Mhm.
I have a slew of coins here, but it's the only coin that's shaped like a hammer. Just put it that way.
Okay. All right. All right.
Yeah, it was entertaining.
That's extra. Y'all do it a lot. Y'all do it a lot with a shape like a hammer. All
Yeah, it's shaped
right.
like a hammer.
What was a typical day like being deployed? Let's say OIF 3. Let's go with that.
OF3, man, OF3 was hard. Because it was just, I mean, it was hard and easy because it was just a smaller unit, so the
Mhm.
responsibilities and everything were much easier. I mean, we probably back then, like I said, I was a different guy. We would probably have some kind of chest bumping. There was, situations where, being with a smaller unit, where we would have conflicts, we're going back and forth as far as, okay, how many times you gonna go out the wire? How many times you gonna stay in the wire? Then, I would talk to first sergeant and be like, hey, I don't mind going outside the wire within reason, because I come back, I gotta work. When y'all come back out the wire, y'all going to the gym, you're doing X, Y, and Z. And first sergeant looked at me like, I know this dude ain't telling me what he want to do and what he ain't gonna do. But we had some pretty interesting conversations because back then I'm not taking nobody anything.
Yeah.
We gonna treat you gonna treat me accordingly. And we would go back and forth and a few chest bumps because the takers, I love those guys, but man, there was situations where yeah, I'm surprised it never went down to fist because we'd be going back and forth. But today's, I mean, the best thing about deployments where you would get a routine and you would just stick with your routine. You would change your routine based on whatever the day is when you can. I mean, hell, you're working 6 days a week, sometimes anywhere between 12 to 16 hours days.
Yeah. If you could tell your younger self anything before you deployed, what would you tell yourself?
Hmm. Before you deployed, I would say,
Before
I don't know,
you
I think my,
deployed, no, like what would you tell
yeah,
yourself? Like,
I don't know. I think the thing I would tell myself ultimately is try to enjoy. I mean, try to enjoy enjoy the moment. You don't really get to enjoy the moment.
you don't really
You
get to
don't really
enjoy the
get
moment. Yeah.
No, you don't really. And what I mean by enjoy the moment is the people,
Hmm.
the camaraderie, the closeness. I mean, you really don't. I mean, I just, when you're logistics, you already have your next task before you finish your current task. So for me, it was like I never really got to enjoy the food. I was already working on the next project. We went to a deployment. Then I had to pretty much plus up, get all the equipment, get everything ready, anticipate everybody's wants, needs, and desires, not just from what they may need for the actual mission, but what they would actually, you know what I'm saying? Just the simple stuff. But for me, it's just kind of enjoy the moment a little bit more, enjoy the people. I mean, you miss people who share your values. And when you're in the military, we all share the same values, we're all on the same page.
Hmm. Facts. Okay. How has deploying changed how you see the world?
Oh, the planes change how I see the world. I mean, for logistics, it's always the process. I mean, I always looked at deployments as, well, whatever you have to do, if you got to occupy the actual grid square. So for me, I was always trying to be prepared for whatever. I mean, if with the concept of being prepared for whatever, I mean, it's just transferred over. I'm still doing logistics now. I'm just doing it, for a corporation, but it's all the same. It's just about the process. I mean, now it's lean, but realistically for us, it was always lean, trying to get as much done as possible and trying to, see around the corner before you even make it to the block.
Yeah, yeah. Are there any moments that still like replay in your mind?
Not really. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I've been removed now. It's almost a decade since I retired. Retired in 2017, and we're approaching almost 2027.
Yeah.
And see how times. But I mean, for me, it's just like, again, I just don't necessarily believe I really enjoyed the experience fully, the Brotherhood. I was
Uh-huh.
just about the work. You
Yeah.
know me, straight up work, morning, noon, and night, and work.
Yeah. All right. All right. Question: what's the best care package you ever received?
Hmm. I wouldn't go care package. I would say just pictures of family, moments you get to miss out on, or and one of my favorite stories to tell, and it wasn't necessarily a deployment, even though it felt like a deployment. That year I spent in Korea,
Mm-hmm.
and we had just had my daughter, and I'll never forget it. She had to be about a little younger than your son now. She had to be around 5, 6,
Mm-hmm.
right around the same age, I want to say. And I have this huge picture of her putting herself in a box and falling asleep because she wanted to be mailed to Korea because she missed her dad. Stuff like that.
I hear
That's why I
that.
said when you're gone, yeah,
That's so
you miss a
sweet. Ain't
lot.
that so sweet?
Yeah.
Ain't that sweet?
So she fell asleep in the box. The wife sends me a picture, and it's literally, I have a automatic, one of those electronic photo. It's always been on my desk, and I just switched over to one of those picture frames where your favorite pictures, you can just add them on there, and it's there. And one of the guys was like, "Is that your kid?" I'm like, "Yeah." She was trying to mail herself to me. Now
That's
she's an
sweet.
adult, so it's like I said, time flies.
All right. So, what advice would you give family members to how to support their soldier while they're deployed?
Mm. I would say the best way to support your soldier while they're deployed is to try to keep the focus drama free as much as possible. And I would say, on the other hand, for the soldier, I think one of the biggest lessons I learned after the second deployment was just coming home and not trying to change up everybody's routine. Because, when you back, you back. You expect, everything to run the way it was before you deployed. In reality, you've been going a year. The deployment we were on, we were going a year and a half.
Yeah.
So we came back and it was just like, okay, bedtime is normally this time. Why are you not, it's just
Yeah.
giving a wife that respect because she held down the fort, So it's like just trying to transition back in.
All right. Next question. What is one thing left you got on your bucket list?
I got a few things left on my bucket list right now. Pretty much I need to plan I have a week planned in London coming up here shortly. So I'll be in London, and London. I got a few places I want to visit that I didn't get to visit during the career. London, Spain. Definitely going to Japan. For me, it's mainly travel and just spending time with family and making money. We like making money.
Yeah, that's real life. That's facts. So, do you feel like your service or possibly, or what? How about this? Do you have PTSD?
Honestly, I have no PTSD, none.
Yeah.
But I mean, to be honest with you, I'm a logistics guy. The first deployment went out maybe a couple of times out of the week,
Uh-huh.
and at some point, I want to think towards the end when everything started to get ramped up to go home, I really didn't even have time for that. Second deployment with you guys, we didn't lead the FOB. Afghanistan, I was so mirrored down in either packing resources or purchasing resources. Nah, I don't really have any PTSD. I think the hardest thing is the wear and tear over time it has on just the going through the process, putting the large stress load on you, and from there. But PTSD is not one of my problems.
Well, I do remember going out to getting those guys when we lost 13. Those lost at 12 or 13. Those guys, we had to recover their
Yeah,
stuff and shit.
no, yeah, I
Yeah.
remember. Actually, they kept me away from that because that was the unit I served with before. Uh,
Before,
on my
oh,
first deployment, yes, they kept me totally away from that. I still talk to Sergeant Maryland too. He did a really good job about that.
So for me, I'm washing the fucking trucks out though. Like I'm washing the no, like this was my first deployment, my first mission. We bring back and like the trucks are full, everything's mangled. You know, everything's tore up, and I'm literally
Yeah.
washing the blood out of the fucking like the seats and just seeing it run in the dirt. Like it was a trip. Like my first go, like this is. I was with Barcina told me to go.
Yeah.
He was like, "Let's go. You going? Like you gotta go get the shit. It's your job." And I guess I didn't know that you didn't like you was involved with the shit. So I was like, "Wow, I'm
Yeah.
out
No,
here
they
wash
completely
racking
separated
it."
me from it.
Yeah, I had to do the funeral detail. I did the funeral detail with them for them. I went and found boots and this, that, and the third and shit. And what else? It was a whole thing. But I wanted to be that was my first like welcome to the army moment for real, for real.
Yeah, no, they set it up because I had served with those guys. One of my favorite stories was McIntyre. Unfortunately, we lost him during that attack. And McIntyre, I never forget it. I got to the unit, and he was just one of those guys that it was like he had never grew up. He was like a giant. He was like almost like a giant kid that just always wanted to have fun. But he kept losing his gear. And it got to the point where he would just show up, and I would have the laptop opened up, and he would just type up his own statement of charges.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, I came in one Monday or Tuesday, and I mean, he had been looked like he was pulverized. Like he was in a phone booth with like three or four gorillas, and they just pounded him.
Hmm.
I looked at McIntyre. I said, "McIntyre, what the hell happened?" He said, "Sorry, I went out. I was in Savannah. I got into a fight with Special Forces guys." I was like, "Who the hell was you with? Did they let you come out looking like this?" And he was like, "Look, they did pull him off me. It wasn't their fault. It was my fault. I got drunk. I got out of control." And I'll never forget it. And when I transferred over and we was in that deployment, he just gradually, he came at E4, he became a squad leader. And I'll never forget, I bumped into him right before we had lost him. And I was like, how's everything going? And he was telling me things were going great. And I mean, I want to say right after that, we had lost him. And most of those guys I had served with, Samareski, old dude. It was, it's painful to think about. I think one of the craziest deployment experiences I had was when we lost Gordino. Um, Hopefully, I'm not killing his name too bad. The first deployment. He's the only guy in the unit as big as me, and I kid you not. I mean, he's a pretty sizable guy. And they were putting their 50 cal away. This was the first deployment when I was with tanks. They're putting their 50 cals away, and for some reason they weren't supervised. I don't know if someone was, just doing something else, and you had the driver and another E form below. They were putting their 50 cals away, and literally, I guess they didn't properly clear it. They couldn't have, and they went to put the 50 cal away, and they put the butt of the 50 cal. It made contact. I guess they're putting their face first, and literally, it took off his whole trapper leg when it went off. I'll never forget it. It was just crazy. It took off I mean, his whole just gone. And he lived. He got back, and they sent him home, of course. And I remember taking my R&R, and I get off the plane, and guess who's standing there? He was standing there, looking just as slim. I mean, he was flying all over the footprint of America, trying
Hmm.
to get back out to the deployment. And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, he had just had a child. I mean, it was great to see him. And like I said, he had slimmed down, he looked great, he did his physical therapy, and it was like he just couldn't stay on Red D. And I wished him well. I was like, well, we make it back out. Me personally, it was like, you made it back. I mean, we're gonna be home in maybe 4 months or whatever. So it's like, okay, what's the point? But it was so important to him to get back out there, and that was extremely respected. And he got back out there, and we lost him on Christmas morning. I'll never forget it because I remember me and my wife, we were going back and forth, and we hadn't lost anyone up until that point. I remember Captain Mahaffey saying, we aren't going to lose anyone. He said that at the beginning of the deployment.
Hmm.
And, you know, a few of us, kind of looked around and was like, it's a tall task because
Yeah.
the rest of mine at that point, man, I
Yeah.
mean, things were tough. And I'll never forget it that Christmas morning. And he'll always be with me because we lost him that Christmas morning. They had it was just a regular routine mission. I want to say they hit an IED. The IED hit the fuel tank of the actual tank, and he got trapped. And it was just one of those situations where, I don't have PTSD, but it's just something about, The guy had a small kid, young guy. I mean, most of these guys you lose, even if you aren't close to them, especially as an NCO, you watch their growth. You
Right.
just you watch them mature, and it's almost like a parent to a degree where it's like, we aren't supposed to be, losing guys, but we had lost them Christmas. And it was really heartbreaking because the guy he had got injured. He did everything that he could to come back out. And there was nothing wrong with him wanting to come back out. I remember cutting a few people off. It was like chain of command. I'm like, no, the chain of command didn't. He wanted to come. It was his. He felt, it
Like
was
you
his
had
duty. He couldn't do
obligated. Like you
red
really
D.
felt,
He was
yeah.
obligated. Yeah, he wasn't gonna let the unit. Extremely respectful. And I don't think there's a Christmas that goes by that I don't think about him when I get up in the morning. And we had lost him, so it was one of the toughest losses. It really was.
So I'm just saying, like experiences like that, do you feel like those shapes you, and do you feel like it impact your relationship with your friends and family?
I wouldn't say it impacted him. It makes me appreciate him more.
Hmm.
And what I mean from an appreciation standpoint, I want to say that we had a day where we lost Sergeant Booker, and I'll never forget it. Me and Sergeant Grant, he was driving me out. We were going to just a regular meeting. This was again Tanks and Bradleys, or just Tanks at that point. It was before they had the FSC and they joined. And I can't remember the checkpoint. Like my memory has been horrible since I've left the service.
Hmm.
We went to a checkpoint. The vehicle was making noise. We went back to the checkpoint. We got on back onto the fob. When we get back onto the fob, we didn't have a Humvee that was available, and the vehicle had stopped making noise. We went back to the checkpoint. We got to the actual location where we were having the meeting or whatever with the locals, and then just that quick, Booker went through the same checkpoint and he was gone. It's gone. So I mean, I always say every time you deploy, you roll the dice. I don't care if you stay in the fob, if you leave the fob, it's a roll of the dice.
This episode is sponsored by Properties Home Inspection, your friendly neighborhood home inspectors right there in Georgia. Whether you're buying your first place or want to know what's going on behind the walls, they got your back. They geek out so you don't have to stress out. Hit them up at properties.com for all your home inspection needs today.
Back to things happening, stuff happening in the fob, right? I'm glad you said that. Excuse me. Back to things happening in the fob. I'm glad you said that. So, do you remember a time when the office in the '05, the office got hit with a mortar? Got hit with a mortar, like the T wall fell into the office.
I want to say I don't remember that exactly. You talking about the deployment we had?
Yeah, what we had. So
Oh
literally,
yes. Okay, no, I definitely remember that one. But it didn't
okay,
it didn't explode though.
it didn't
It was
explode.
just
It hit the
enlarged.
office, knocked the T wall, hit the T wall, fell into the office a little bit.
Yeah,
It fell
I
into the
remember that
office,
one.
right? That one. Now, I say that to say that day I was late, and thank God I was late because you said, "Pal, I was like, hey, child, I was late though, but if I was there, I'd have been in there." That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, like I said, no, I mean, no. I think the first deployment was so crazy, the location they had us at Ruston Meyer, that the second deployment was just like, eh. The first deployment, like for example, Christmas and that holiday season of Christmas and New Year's, when I said they mortared us, it got to
I
the point
remember
where we
Christmas was.
just, yeah, I mean, they mortared us. I mean, they mortared us so bad. I remember it was just me and Hill on the first deployment, and we were both laying in our bunks. He on his side, because we had built like a little wall locker, a partition, so we could partition
Mm-hmm.
two officers off. And I mean, you could just hear the rounds dropping. It got to the point where it was just like, what's the point of, of leaving?
All right,
I mean, it was that
I
bad.
might as well
So
just
the
stay in
second
my bed.
deployment, it was just like, yeah, if it hits, it hits. And the second deployment, it was, yeah, you have those intense moments, but it's just something about you just over time, you kind of sort of get used to it, but I don't think you ever really fully, truly get used to it.
I am so glad you backed that story because I be telling people in the holiday season they do not turn down; they turn up. I have
Oh no,
never
they
been
turn
more
up during the holiday season.
doing.
Both
They turn
deployments, they
up. I have
turn
never been
up.
more so much in my life. What is going on? Like it was like for every day they sent a fucking round. Like on
Yeah,
Christmas I
nah.
counted
It was
25 rounds.
intentional.
It was
No,
just
it was
like I'm counting.
intentional.
So what is going on here?
Yeah, it was very intentional because
Yeah,
they did the same thing the first deployment. I mean, I mean, we were just laying there. It was like, I guess is this it? Is it? 'Cause, I mean, they just literally you can hear the mortars just dropping. It got to the point where you would listen to whatever radio, and it's like whatever. We just leave it
yeah.
be.
All right. Curveball. If you could live in any time period in the world, like no, excuse me, if you could live in any time period, right? Like let's say 1700s, 1880s, 90s, whatever, right? What period would you pick?
I love the '90s, man. There was something. There was a simplicity about the '90s. I
I
mean,
think
before all the
everybody is saying
technology
that though.
booms, it was just. I mean, people actually got to. I mean, something that's simple. I listen a lot. I listen a lot of YouTube. Listen to a lot of people talk now, and I listen. And the world is technology has changed the world so much where it's brought us together in some situations. We wouldn't be having this conversation without technology, but in
Facts.
other situations, you actually have it where it's kind of divided folks, and it has them on their own little island. So I think the '90s was for me. Man, the stories I can tell about that first deployment or that first duty assignment in Germany, last man's ups on the
Okay.
autobahn, just we had really great times.
Okay, yo. Now you're at the military. What is something? What was it like coming back to civilian life?
Mm. Coming back to civilian life after being in the military, it's I don't know. The very first group I joined, it's it has its pluses, it has its minuses, but I think the very first group I joined, I tried to work third shift. Can't do it. Will never try to do it. Like
Mm-hmm.
6 months, I was like, yo, I tap. I tap. And then from there, Headhunter had reached out to me and I joined the company that I'm with now. And the first team was just like being in the military. They pretty much, everybody got along really, really well. Everybody worked really hard. Um, it was seamless. It's just transitioning over. I always joked while, at the very end when I said the military prepares you for the corporate world. So it's pretty much, it prepares you. The briefing, the PowerPoint slides, the projects,
All right.
a lot of the lessons I learned in the military, I've been able to transition over since I've been.
Well, um, what would you tell? Okay, what advice would you give somebody, a young person, considering joining the military?
Join.
One more time,
No
say it again.
games.
You cut up. You said
The
what? Cut.
question, the question I would ask them is why do they want to join? I mean, if you really want to, for me, it's always been about achieving. It's been about what are you willing to sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
If you aren't really willing to sacrifice, and I'm not gonna, paint this whole entire generation in a toxic light. I have three very, very productive young adults who
Mm-hmm.
are this generation, and they work extremely hard, and I'm extremely proud of them. But for me, I always want to make sure the reasons you're doing something is worth it because if they aren't, then I mean I don't know how many people over 20 years I've watched kids of military of military career people get in and be like, I can't do this. I thought I could do this, but this is not what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, are you getting in for the right reasons? And are you getting in and is there purpose? One of my favorite stories to tell, I have a relative who wanted to just jump out of planes. I mean, that was the only thing. I'll never forget. I got a call from their parent. It's like, really, they want to jump out of a plane? That's all they want to do? Do the military have other opportunities? And I'm like, the military have an assortment, an endless supply of opportunities.
Right.
And that person, that's all they really thought about was jumping out of a plane. I don't know what movie they watched, but it was so ingrained in, why they wanted to join the military. Then they got up in the plane. It was time to jump, and they were like, "Can't do it." Won't
Mm-hmm.
do it. So from there, it's like, what do? You join for one reason, and now you've gone through that, and you couldn't commit to it, and now you're kind of, needless to say, they were out their first, they were their first contract. They were done in the 4 year mark. They were just done. So for me, it's what's your plan? What's your end goal? Don't just do something thinking it's going to be ice cream and cupcakes because it's a lot of hard work. You will be tested.
Hell yeah. Do you feel like we won the war?
I don't think anyone ever wins a war, honestly. After
Mm,
seeing what I've seen and the amount of, precious treasure that we've basically, after 2 decades, 2 wars simultaneously.
yeah.
I mean, I don't really think the amount of money we've spent for those 2 wars and the amount of people we lost, if we actually invested, and don't get me wrong, from an Afghanistan standpoint, I was willing to go to Afghanistan and fucking die. When you start running planes into buildings in America, you need to wake up with us on your front lawn. There's no getting
Mm,
around that.
right.
None. But when you look at Iraq and that situation, the circumstances, and how long Afghanistan went on, and just in general. I mean, we
Yeah.
exhausted a lot of resources into tearing down someone else's country, building it back up, and then turning it over, back to the people that we fought. Because realistically, like Saddam Hussein, I always crack people up, and I was like, if you want to look at something crazy, check who actually was awarded the keys to Detroit. Now, before Barry Sanders, it was Saddam
Mm.
Hussein. I mean, think about that for a second. I mean, he was an ally, and we were invested in making sure that his regime stayed in power because realistically, it was everything about keeping Iran at bay, and he did that for us. And then when he, didn't learn his place or kind of forgot what his place was, we had to check him. And that's basically how the politics of the Middle East, for me, the Middle East is just one big giant butterfly effect. Honestly, every time you go and you think you solve for one problem, you just create another.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Damn, that was good, Fresh. You don't even know how good. I'm gonna use that. That's gonna be the fucking trailer. I'm telling you right now. That's gonna be the fucking trailer. Consider. All right. In your 20 years of service, would you do anything different?
D- Just enjoy the brotherhood more. You know me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a workaholic and lone wolf. So
Mm-hmm.
it's, I spend more time trying to avoid people than spend actual time with them and just enjoy the actual experience of being a part of a unit. I mean, I had my moments where, I got to enjoy the soldiers and, support the soldiers, but just more time just enjoying the people that, you sweat, you bleed, you sleep, you exercise, you compete against. Because when they're gone, it's like you do miss them because the civilian world, everyone's not built the same. They're
I
just
don't
not.
even. That's the only thing I miss is the team. That's the only thing I miss is the
Yeah.
team. Like that's just my guys, or me coming to work with my guys, or you know what I'm saying, or
Getting up in the
deliver.
morning, having PT together.
I miss like delivering. I miss delivering for the team. Like whatever unforeseen bullshit is
Yeah.
thrown. You know what I'm saying? I know I'm gonna handle it, but I didn't mean it would be dealt with.
And then
That's
the
the only
cool
thing I
thing,
miss.
we had flexibility though. I mean, it was like right now I work for a really corporation, and I mean, the spending, there was always ways for us to get around whatever they came up with. They would come
Hmm.
up with something else to stop us. But I mean, just the mere satisfaction of just taking care of the team, making sure everybody have what they need. One of my favorite stories was Korea. I got there and they had somebody who had pretty much starved them to death. I mean, when I say starved them, I mean, the day room didn't do anything with that, washers and dryers. I remember replacing all of those things. I remember, completely building their last place supply room into the first place in the battery. And it was just something about, that taking on that challenge and actually going from dead last to being the worst to the first. And then to have the confirmation. I'm sitting in Germany and we get a new sergeant and he looks at me and he goes, Frazier, last four, 9356. I was like, okay. And he's like, yeah, I took over for you in Korea. I hate you. I was like, why do you hate me? He's like, man, I was gone for you. You was gone for only 6 months. And all I heard was, all the hard work you put in and how you took care of the unit and, how we were the best thing on sliced bread. And then I turned around and they put someone in your place who wasn't a 92 Yankee for 6 months. And I had to come back and start a lot of work over from scratch. But it's just
Mm.
something about those achievements. That's just what it's always driven me.
Speaking of achievements, I don't know if you know, but due to your leadership and whatnot, you know what I'm saying, your guidance, of course, I stayed with 164 for another deployment, and then what in that second deployment, the in Iraq, whatever, I got promoted. I got Balfour promoted, and I was the
Now
first
that's an
quartermaster.
accomplishment.
I was the first. I'm the first quartermaster to receive the battle promotion since World War II.
Oh
Yeah, since World
wow.
War II, and the other guys didn't even stay alive. Like they needed like an honorary promotion. Only one guy was alive out of the 21 guys that you know what I'm saying they promoted.
Yeah. That's
You know what
what's
I'm
up.
saying? So due to your leadership, you know what I'm saying, I went on and killed and continue to you know what I'm saying do my thing, and I'm very proud to tell you that, man. I don't know if you knew, but yeah, Barcina and
Yeah,
Captain
because you can't
Shamsi,
Barcena. Yeah,
yeah.
you can. Oh man, Barcena, bro, man. I don't know if I told you, but I had bumped into him on my very last deployment. They had took over for us, and I let him know I was retiring after NTC.
Mhm.
And he was the same, just same burst of energy. He was like, I'm supposed to quit smoking. Don't tell the wife. But that guy, I mean, he will always be the definition of leadership, bro. I just he was one of those guys where, I mean, I remember what the unit was. I volunteered to go to the unit because their logistics was so bad. They had the combat arm guys laughing at them at the FSC. Because, like I said, they started
That's
without a
wow.
92 Yankee. And when I volunteered, everybody looked at me and it was like, "You're crazy. Why would you volunteer for that? How many
Yeah.
hours you gonna have to put in?" But I'm like, "Nah, I got this. I want this. This is, I mean, it's a challenge that ultimately it'll propel me into senior, but it was just the challenge itself. But I don't think anything would have worked the way that it worked without Barcena, man.
Oh,
Rest
that's
in
for sure.
peace.
Rest
Without,
in
man,
peace,
that guy
dog.
was just, oh, he was unbelievable. He was selfless. I mean, he
Hmm.
was fun to be around. I mean, the amount of us who made some first class, and it was being an FSC also helped because the Army's always in love, with, whatever the new concept is. And if you're able to, approach that concept and complete it successfully, but it was just something about his leadership, how he went about things, how he brought everyone together, how he was able to just all those different personalities, 300 I mean, we had over 300 people in that unit.
Yeah, man. In the unit, we had 111 in the company alone. In FSC alone, we had 106 at one time. 111. I was doing fucking APO or ADO, whatever ADO for these motherfuckers. So I know. I know exactly how many people in. I got your socials. I got all your information. Still, I got all the paperwork.
Like, platoon side. I mean, you got a platoon that's almost you don't see platoons bigger than 50 or 60 personnel, man. But
Mm,
literally, we had platoons when I was in 75, 80. Then you turn around and, I mean, you're supporting at the toolboxes. One of my favorite stories to tell is I'll never forget it because back then, man, like I said, I was a different animal.
mm,
And I had so many accomplishments on how I handle business and how I maintain, property and how I maintain paperwork. And I took that and I really got smacked in the face because I took that same, concept. And when I went over to the FSC, it was like, okay, nobody can tell me nothing. This is how we're going to do. We're going to account for, for every toolbox, we're going to account for each individual toolbox separate or whatever. And I'll never forget it. They looked at me and it was like, you know what you asking me for? Yeah, I want paperwork for every single toolbox you got. I want paperwork for this, paperwork for that. And I'll never forget it. Starting golf, he's like, okay. They looked at me. Starting golf was like, don't worry, I got this. And
yeah.
sorry, I should have known that 'cause nobody argued with me. They was like, you sure that's what you want? I'm like, that's what I want, damn it. Give me what I want.
Mm,
And I'll never forget the day he had two soldiers come in and they literally toting paper that they could barely see over their face. This
mm,
is just for one, just one. It was Bravo maintenance team. And he comes in, he puts it down on my desk. I can't even see over the paperwork. And then another soldier comes in, he was like, okay, you sure you want this much amount of paper? I mean, we can give you what you want, but this is
mm.
just my team. And then from there, I made the adjustment and just I learned a lot from the mechanics in general, just how to go about the job, how to navigate. Those guys really were beneficial to my progression for real and development
Shout out to those guys, man. All
for real.
right. Now, what in your life brings you the most joy in your life at this point?
Man, I don't know. Everything is different at this point. I mean, just spending time with family, you miss
Hmm.
I mean, we talk about the deployments, but the amount of trainings we have to go to for the deployments,
Right.
then being logistics and property, I mean, the amount of work we have to put in to make sure that everybody else is taken care of before we can even, conduct those training missions or wherever, they're trying to send us or have us basically, complete so that we can deploy. But for me right now, it's just whenever you get the opportunity, my kids are grown, my daughter's getting married next year. My
Hmm.
son's a firefighter, so I get to see them and enjoy their, like I said, their productiveness. And my oldest is a teacher, so it's like whenever we can get together and spend that family time, it's what's up.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up, man. I know you proud, boss, man. Um,
Yeah, man.
let's see. All right, two more questions. I got these last two questions for you. Let's see. And one, two, three. What's the best advice? Yeah, what's the best advice you never listened to?
I'm gonna say enjoy the moment, man. Everyone said it. You don't enjoy the moment.
Uh,
You just about work. It's about
yeah.
work. I'll never forget it. I think Afghanistan, I'm damn near literally like I want to say 15, 16 years in, and the S6 sergeant, and I had smiled. It was we were just cracking. It's like, you never smile. You don't never seem like you enjoy the work. I enjoy the work, but we don't have time to enjoy the work. I'm already thinking about the next task before, you said that a boy for this task. So it's
Hmm.
just enjoy the moment because it's snap of the finger, man. The beard
Yeah,
is gray and it's over.
that's true. All right, my final question to you, good sir, is how do you want to be remembered?
I mean, for me, it's just as a guy that did his job, fair, sometimes tough, but always fair and compassionate. For being a big dude, I love everybody. As long as you don't piss me off, we good. But it's just for me, it's always been about the achievement, the production, and okay, that's what and the challenge. And okay, what are we gonna get after next? How can we leave it better than what it was before we received it?
Yeah, I dig that, man. Well, it was an honor serving with you. It was a pleasure doing this
Hey
show,
man,
this episode, man. I appreciate you so much, boss man.
same here, man. Don't stay a stranger.
Yeah, yes. I got one more story to tell you though. Before I let you go,
I'm
I just thought
listening.
about this one. So it was one mission where you. So no, we don't have a mission. We had to go. Probably we was hopping maybe five, like going from Liberty to something, right? Whatever, to go get some shit. It was the three of us, you, me, Bernie, and you used to sleep in the truck sometimes. You used to like doze off that Humvee if we got dry like. And one day you was riding me and Bertie hard, man. You was, I don't know what the fuck we did. I don't know what we did that day. But you know what I'm saying? You get in the truck and we had pizza for lunch that day. Or some shit like from some random place we had like some shit we ate. You dozed off. And Bertie was like, watch this. And I was like, what you mean? He was like, watch this. And he brake checked it and you woke up and I swear to God, it was the
You know what? I
funniest
think I
shit.
remember that because I woke up and looked around. Y'all just looking at each other.
Just looking like,
What the hell going
oh my
on?
God. I had to hold that thing, man. That was the funniest shit. I was like,
Man,
man, he don't never do that. But yeah, when you was riding us, I'm gonna get him. I was like, all right, Bernie. He fucking
oh
brake
man.
checked that shit. Oh man, I just had to tell you, I'm snitching, Bernie. You don't never call nobody, so I'm snitching.
Yeah, I was about
So
to say, do you ever get to talk to Bernie?
I
Cause
don't know Bernie yet, man. Bernie disappeared. I sold him a car and he disappeared. I shit you not. I shit you not. I sold him the car
yeah,
before
it's
he
weird
PCS
because
to
he's from
Texas.
San Antonio,
He
Texas, and
from
that's where I'm at
Texas, and
now.
and that's
Yeah.
what he said he was going. That's what he said. He was PCS in Texas when he was leaving. When he was leaving, I was like, all right, bet. So I sold him the car, and I think he just got married to that girl and all that stuff, and that was it. And I ain't heard from him since.
Yeah, because we had exchanged messages, I want to say before I retired, but he disappeared, man.
Man, I don't know where he at, but Bernie,
Yeah.
you got an APO out for you, my boy. Somebody find
Hey,
this
for
man.
real.
Yeah,
We have to put a APB out on
APP. I said it wrong. APP. Y'all know I'm not a cop. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I don't know.
him.
All right, boss man.
Seriously.
Thank you
But all right,
again.
man.
I'm gone, boss. Later.
Same here. Take care.
That's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you for tuning in to Combat Carl Show. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs to hear this. For more updates and content, you can follow us on all social media platforms at the Combat Carl Show. Until next time, watch your six, keep grinding, and never let the world forget who the hell you are. Combat Carl out.